Geez, when I said keep it simple, I didn't expect it to be this simple. Simplicity is an important part of better mental health because it's about getting back to basics. And in this video, I'm going to share 5 simple ways to do just that. So get comfortable and let's talk about better mental health. Apparently simplicity is wearing the same shirt that you wore for the previous video. Hello and welcome. I'm Jeremy Godwin, and this week on Better Mental Health, I'm sharing 5 ways to incorporate greater simplicity into your life so that you then have the time to focus on what matters most to you. And at the end, I'll be sharing a bonus tip that will make it even easier to say no to the stuff that overcomplicates life. So let's begin with reflect on where you are today. And I mean this in terms of simplicity as well as your overall happiness. Are things too complicated in your life? If you're dealing with drama and crises on a regular basis, then I'm probably going to guess that the answer is yes. Ask yourself these questions in an objective and non-judgmental way. What's working well? What's not working well? What do you need to stop? What do you need to start? And what do you need to continue? Now bear in mind that you cannot change what has or hasn't happened in the past. You can only deal with things as they are here in the present. So rather than beating yourself up over complications or whatever, choose to be kind to yourself and treat anything that's happened in the past as a learning opportunity, which leads to my next point. Identify your top 3 to 5 priorities in life. And this is about really understanding what truly matters the most to you, so that you can then choose to focus mainly on those things and begin to step back from the things that just don't matter that much. I've used this as a tool to help me reshape my life over the last decade, because when I had a breakdown in late 2011, I then found myself spending a few years dealing with severe depression and anxiety, which I've talked about quite a few times. That forced me to completely reconsider how I was approaching every single aspect of my life. When you know what really, truly matters to you, you can then focus your attention on your priorities and let everything else just be background noise. I talked about priorities in episode 3 of the Let's Talk About Mental Health podcast, and you'll find that linked in the description below if you'd like to check that out. Next, take your time thinking through your choices, because when we rush our decisions, it can very often lead to very messy outcomes rather than more considered ones. Now that doesn't mean that it won't happen with more thoughtful decisions. Sometimes messes happen. But at least, by being a bit more considered, you'll have time to think through the pros and cons a bit more. And let me say here that it's best to find balance in all things. And that means not rushing your decisions, but also not taking too long, because that can also open a whole can of worms if you just put off making choices that actually need to be made. So my next point is, know the difference between need versus want. And I say this because most of what we think we need are actually just wants in disguise. Look, I need a phone, but I don't need the latest model. And in fact, my iPhone is 3 years old and it's still working perfectly well. I have an Apple Watch, which is now 6 years old, and it's finally at a point where I'm thinking about replacing it because the battery's on its last legs. There's a difference between want and need, and if all of your time is spent chasing after things that you think you need, then you will find yourself having to make choices that may make your life much more difficult than it needs to be. At the very least, be very honest with yourself about labeling things as a want rather than a need, because that then enables you to be more objective about the choices that you make. I mean, I know that I don't strictly need half of the books that I own, but I want them. And so if I'm honest with myself about that, it makes it easier to be more thoughtful about what I choose to buy in the future, because I'm the one that's in control. And so that leads to my next point. Say no more often. And the thing is that there are so many things in life that demand our attention, but only so many hours in the day. So you have to make the choices that are right for you. I find that unless I'm really excited about the prospect of something, then it's best to say no. Otherwise, I'll probably just wind up going through the motions or feeling annoyed that I'm giving up valuable time for something that isn't really giving back to me in exchange for the time that I'm giving. I believe in giving more than you take, but it's about giving to both others and to yourself. balance in all things, my friends. Now, I talked about how to say no for better mental health in this video, and you'll find that linked in the episode description below. And that leads to my bonus point, which is also a part of saying no, and it is set and maintain healthy boundaries. Which I know might sound a bit Dr. Phil to some of you, but please hear me out. Boundaries are simply about knowing what your needs are and ensuring that they are being met in a fair, kind, and balanced way. Now, that doesn't mean that your needs are more important than other people's needs, but it also does not mean that their needs override yours. Life is all about finding balance and maintaining it. And so having healthy boundaries helps you to actually do that. I talked about boundaries in episode 53 of the Let's Talk About Mental Health podcast, and I also covered setting healthy boundaries with family in this video. So you'll find both of those linked in the description below. So that's it for this episode. Let me know what you thought in the comments below, and if you made it all the way to the end, leave me a white circle emoji because, well, it was the simplest emoji I could think of. Want more? Listen to the Let's Talk About Mental Health podcast on your favourite podcast service every Sunday, or use the link in the description below. Click here to subscribe to my channel and watch this video next for more practical advice on better mental health. Thanks so much for joining me today. Take care and talk to you next time. Oh, it's quite nice in here. It's very white though. How'd they get it so white? Wait, am I in an AHA video? Is this where Morten Harket lives?